This we knew was going to happen, of course. This is what we've been talking about for a very long time. As you can see here off the CBC, Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney has got a look of determination and anger on his face. This slimy reptile has just beefed up this CSIS bill, right? The CSIS powers beefed up under new bill tabled by Stephen Blaney. Public Safety Minister says it's time to stop underreacting to the great threats against us. Now, I want to say this to all Canadians out there. There is absolutely no threats to you whatsoever except from your fucking government, okay? These scumbags like this guy, Stephen Blaney, are the threat to you, okay? You've got to understand this, and this is what I've been showing for the last few days, last week or so, showing the false flag events that they carried out here just outside of Montreal, and then, of course, right in Ottawa downtown at the War Memorial and then the Senate or the Parliament. And it's problem, reaction, solution, folks, because they were going to vote on this bill this week right when this shooting happened. And wouldn't you know it, now everyone's on board. So Public Safety Minister Stephen Blaney has tabled a bill in the House of Commons today to expand the powers of the Canadian Security Intelligence Canada Spy Agency. Bill C-44, dubbed the Protection of Canada from Terrorists. The protection of Canada from terrorists. Well, the terrorists that exist in Canada are in the fucking government, okay? Was expected to be introduced last week before a gunman launched an attack in the Capitol. Wouldn't you figure? I mean, it's just how it works, right? We see it all the time. There's always a bill that's ready to go. So the proposed legislation here amends the Canadian Security Intelligence Service Act, as well as strengthening Canadian Citizenship Act and making consequential amendment to the Access to Information Act. They're just tearing down the laws that protect us as citizens. Bill C-44, as CBC News reported earlier, amends the Canadian Security Intelligence Act to give greater protection to confidential sources without having to identify them in court proceedings, even to the judge. So you don't even have to, if they get somebody giving them sources about somebody up to something bad, they don't even have to tell the judge who the source is. They could just pull it out of their ass. Then give CSIS more powers of surveillance and detention to more effectively investigate threats to the security of Canada. So more power, more surveillance, the ability to detain people without any warrant, right? The ability to hold people against their will, against their legal rights. Then, of course, give Canada Spy Agency explicit authority to operate within or without outside Canada. This would allow the agency to share information on suspected Canadian terrorists abroad with members of the so-called Five Eyes group of countries that I always go on about: the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. This is exactly what's happening right across the Five Eyes and right across the Western world. All these governments are tabling the same type of legislation. It's uncanny, the resemblance that these legislations have. This is something that Up North of the 49th was touching on the other night on a big show that we have. I'll post the link for that show on the emergency roundtable discussion that we had dealing with this. It is beyond Orwellian where we are going as a state, Canada. And the criminals that created this farce are the ones that are going to benefit from the rights that they're going to destroy, from the powers that they're going to gain, right? These scumbags are evil beyond belief, Canada, and you cannot let them do this to you. Well, it's already being done. More anti-terrorism measures coming. Today's proposed legislation has not been altered following Wednesday's assault. Of course, because it was already all there in advance. On the National War Memorial in Canada's Centre Block, CBC has learned. CBC, good for nothing. Canadian Bullshit Corporation. The ultimate goal of the bill is to give authorities greater power to deal with some of the Canadians already on watch list who are considered most dangerous. I'm probably on that list, fuck. It really is more about coming after people that are a threat to the government, and people that are a threat to the government are people that expose the government, folks. That's how it works. You expose what they're up to. You expose their dirty little false flags, their massive psyops, their incredibly criminal actions against the people of Canada. They are the ones that are terrorizing Canadians, not some fucking two-bit junkies from Quebec, who managed to somehow leave a homeless shelter and get across the entire country and end up in the nation's capital with a gun. I don't know how that works. I don't know. Funny how that works, eh? Blaney told the House of Commons Monday that it is important for new public safety legislation to be an overreaction to the events such as the attacks on Ottawa and Quebec this week, but it is equally important for the Canadian government not to underreact to threats. Okay, so he said it's not an overreaction and that we can't underreact, right? So essentially they want to overreaction. It's an overreaction. It really is because, well, it's problem, reaction, solution, right? They have set up the problems, of course, the two false flags that they committed this week, and then they have the solution. They say, well, look, we're here. We've worked. It's just a coincidence, of course, that we've been working on this. That it applies directly to the false flags that we just carried out, and that we've convinced most of the House of Parliament they were under grave threat. The first responsibility of the government is to keep Canadians safe. Really, I think the first responsibility of this government is to keep themselves safe and in power. We will not overreact, but it's time to stop underreacting to the great threats against us, Blaney said during the question period on Monday. In addition to today's CSIS bills, Blaney said the federal government will also introduce further anti-terrorism measures, further reforms to protect Canadians from terrorism, because we all know those terrorists, they're just coming over the border. You can't stop them. Will be presented in a second forthcoming piece of legislation, Blaney said. It's done, Canada. You're losing your rights. It's, anybody who's going to stand up to the government is just going to be locked up or taken out or whatever, right? Framed or blackmailed or all kinds of nastiness. This opens Pandora's box here, folks. These assholes have changed this country now. We're going to have to fight to get our rights back because they're going to be able to spy on everyone. And you Canadians that don't fucking pay attention, maybe I should think back to about 3 years ago when Vic Tays said, the minister there of safety, I think at the time, said, you know what? You're either with us or you're with the child pornographers. Do you remember that? Vic Tays, who was having an affair with some 18-year-old girl, and he's a 65-year-old, 67-year-old, I don't know how old he is, old geezer, right? And he said, you're either with us or you're with the child pornographers. And that was giving the right for CSIS or the police, the RCMP, to go into people's computers and spy on people without a warrant, essentially. This is what this government is doing to Canada, folks. You're all sipping your Tim Hortons and watching your hockey, but you're not paying attention to what they're doing. I wonder what the comments here are. Okay, Enzo Ferrari. Okay, we have 3 new bills in 1 week. Bill C-13, anyone can get spied on without a warrant. That's the cyberbullying bill, of course. Bill C-44, anyone can get charged on fake evidence, and Bill C-60, no one will hear about it because the PM appoints the CBC executive. Welcome to democracy. Well, thank God we got people like Enzo here. You are on the ball. There's another one. Your humble narrator. It makes you wonder who you should be more afraid of, the terrorists or the Harper government, who never miss an opportunity to infringe on Canadian civil rights. I can tell you, hands down, 100%, without any fucking doubt, it's the Harper government that you should be way more afraid of. All right? Let's see this one here. By all means, let's overreact to events taken in Canada. A couple of strung out dudes get in the news, and let's shut down the entire country. I wouldn't support this strategy by a reasonable, intelligent government, let alone this abusive, none too bright bunch of incompetence. Yeah, you want a better Canada? AB 2015. You know what? It's nice to see that Canadians are, starting to wake up. Let's see the top comments here. All this evidence use Allow the use of evidence gleaned from confidential sources without having without having to identify them in court proceedings, even to a judge. Doesn't that provide the license to make up evidence of confidential sources? Hey, you know what? No Kool-Aid. I'm impressed by the Canadians here that are seeing what's going on. Imagine how you guys would feel if you knew what I knew, that this whole thing was staged in order to bring in this legislation. But I'm just happy to see that so many people can't stand the fucking Harper government. The Harper government is still insisting the attack in Ottawa is a terrorist issue and not a mental health issue. That is enough to tell me that there's another agenda here. Yeah, I hope all you people that are there can see what we've uncovered collectively as a group investigating this false flag, 100% false flag. There's a little bit of hope there in the comments for sure. But these people, these psychopaths will not stop until they squash anybody's chance to stand up against them. They are beyond evil. This is so awful. The entire government should fall. Please, people, do your best to share these videos. Do your best to share my work, PK22, everyone else that's working on this. So many great Canadians up north of the 49th Police State Radio. Please support us. Share this information. Post on the comments. Share the work that we're doing. Let Canadians know. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day.